How will the Minnesota Vikings offense be elite next season? They have Justin Jefferson. They have a rookie quarterback coming in, but most likely Sam Darnold is going to be the starter for most of 2024 unless he gets injured, unless he throws 6 picks a game. So I'm going to tell you on this podcast why it's not up to Justin Jefferson to make the Minnesota Vikings offense elite this season. This take is presented by Hoagland Farm. Contact Jared at 952-491-1541 for the best rotationally grazed 100% grass-fed beef. This beef is sold in quarters and halves, and he has custom sample packs so you can try before you buy.
You kidding me?
And guess what? You get 20% off. How much? 20% off.
You kidding me?
For mentioning the Minnesota Tim podcast on your first order. So contact Jared at 952-491-1541. This is a deal you'll want to take advantage of today. Do it. Do it. As Starsky and Hutch said, do it. Do it. Okay, so let me answer the question that I posed that you're waiting to hear from after you called Jared at 952-491-1541. How will the Minnesota Vikings offense be explosive next year? Because as amazing as Justin Jefferson is, the Minnesota Vikings need more than Justin Jefferson to be explosive. And you look at the situation on the Minnesota Vikings. The interior of the Minnesota Vikings offensive line should be stronger. They brought back Dalton Reisner, so he'll compete with Blake Brandel for the offensive line spot. The center, Garrett Bradbury, played much better last year, but bigger players still take advantage of them. Aaron Jones should be a high-quality back for the Minnesota Vikings, but he's had injury problems that we need to consider. How many seasons has he truly been healthy for the for the Green Bay Packers? TJ Hockenson, he's not coming back until at least mid-season, and is he going to be 100% when he comes back? Probably not. So the Minnesota Vikings are going to need Justin Jefferson to be explosive, the guy that we know he can be. But we're going to need way more than that. The Minnesota Vikings offense will be elite if Jordan Addison takes the next step in his wide receiver development and becomes a 1B wide receiver to Justin Jefferson. Because teams are going to double Justin Jefferson all day, all night, and that is their number one focus. When teams prepare for the Minnesota Vikings, it doesn't always work because Justin Jefferson is amazing at what he does, at his craft. But when teams prepare for the Minnesota Vikings, taking out Justin Jefferson is 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, 1E, and 1F. And why not G through Z? Okay. He is their number one focus. He is the guy they want to limit the most on the Minnesota Vikings offensive end. So Jordan Addison is going to need to step up in a big way next year. And according to reports, Jordan Addison is looking like he might take that next step because per Alec Lewis of The Athletic, he talks about Jordan Addison. He says he simply looks different than other wide receivers because of the way he hinges off routes and glides across the field. He says, without Justin Jefferson present, second-year pro Jordan Addison is manning most of the X-receiver snaps. And this is during voluntary OTAs, when JJ didn't need to show up. He continues, he simply looks different than the rest of the wideouts in the way he hinges off routes and glides across the field. Sounds like Bill Walton talking. He simply looks different than the rest of the wideouts in the way he hinges off routes and glides across the field. The Vikings will need him to step up if tight end TJ Hockenson misses time early, and Addison looks ready to do so. He is the X factor in the Minnesota Vikings offense next year. Because as teams look to eliminate Justin Jefferson, he needs to step up. When TJ Hawkinson isn't there, he needs to step up because Minnesota Vikings also have Sam Darnold throwing the football. And last I checked, this is his 4th team in 7 seasons in the NFL. Not exactly a proven winner, although I believe he will shock people this season. And to add to my point, when Justin Jefferson is limited or covered well, limited is a good word, I guess. I pulled up the Minnesota Vikings game log from last year and looked at his stats. In game 1, he had 150 yards. Vikings still only scored 17 points. How is that even possible? Game 2 had 159 yards. Game 3 had 149 yards. Vikings put up more points in that game, 28-24. But against the Carolina Panthers, in a win, the first win of the season, Justin Jefferson had 85 yards, 6 catches, and the Vikings scored 21 points. The next game, and the Vikings lost to Kansas City. He had 3 catches, 28 yards, and the Vikings only scored 20 points. In the very next game against Las Vegas, and again, these are the games Justin Jefferson played in. This isn't in a row because he was injured last year. So in the very next game, he had 2 catches, 27 yards. And that was his first game back from injury. But he's still Justin Jefferson. The very next game, Vikings scored 3 points that game. Very next game, he played in against the Cincinnati Bengals. He had 7 catches for 84 yards. Vikings lost. He scored 141 against the Lions in their 3rd to last game of the year. And then against the Green Bay Packers, when the Vikings scored 10 points, he had 5 catches for 59 yards. So when JJ is limited or taken out as the best wide receiver in the NFL, which he is, the Minnesota Vikings need the next guy to step up. Because as he's drawing double teams, as he's gathering 3 secondary players from opposing teams and flocking them like a shepherd herding the sheep to that side of the field, that's when Jordan Addison needs to step up because he's going to be on 1-on-1. And Sam Darnold's going to need that. So as great as JJ is, he is not going to be able to do everything by himself. He can do a lot by himself. He can make spectacular catches and do amazing things. But he needs the help from Jordan Addison. And the Minnesota Vikings will go as far as Jordan Addison develops next year. Because he has the ability to be an amazing wide receiver in the NFL. We saw it last year in the first how many games? He scored a bunch of touchdowns. But he needs to add to his game and become an elite 1B to Jefferson's 1A for the Minnesota Vikings to have a successful elite offensive season. Thank you for watching this podcast on YouTube. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, thank you as well. I appreciate you making this podcast and this episode a part of your day. Everyone, rate, review, subscribe, wherever you are watching or listening to this podcast.